Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, December 9th. We're getting towards the end of the year. I can't believe it. I hope you're pretty damn close to achieving or exceeding your goals, because if not, you're in a little bit of deep trouble. But today's guest is somebody you'd want to be speaking to about that. We'll get to him in just a second. As many of you know, I'm a sales coach and trainer. I work with both individuals and organizations internationally to help them increase their sales. And I founded the Sales Pro Network as a place where we can elevate the profession of sales, network with each other, learn from each other, and help each other make more money and contribute to the world. And as you also know, every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a live training or I bring you a guest who can add value to the profession of sales. And once again, my friends, today is no exception. It's my pleasure to introduce you all to the author of the book, Selling from the Heart, Larry Levine. Good morning, Larry.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. How's it going?
Outstanding. And I'm really happy to be talking to you because I'm fascinated by this topic. I'm a big believer in heart. But before we get to the book and all the other questions that I have for you, could you please tell us a little bit about your background? Give us maybe the 2 or 3 minute version of what brought you up to this point.
Sure. But hey, excuse me. But before I get started, I love the word that you used when you said elevate. As with you, I'm going to high five you. I'm on a mission to elevate the sales profession as well through authenticity and bringing heart to the forefront. So I'm a kindred spirit of yours. I love that you use the word elevate. So I applaud you for it. But just a quick flyover for everybody. And my apologies, everyone. I am out of my element. I'm out of my office. I'm out of my studio. So you all bear with me. I'm actually in a hotel room in Orange County, Southern California, just doing some planning. So bear with me. We're gonna have a great time together today, or this morning. I spent my whole entire career in the copier channel. I spent almost 3 decades all in Los Angeles selling copiers. Yes, copiers. Office technology. I always say it's highly laggard sales channel, highly dysfunctional, highly commoditized, but I carved a niche in it for almost 3 decades. The simple reason is I brought heart and I brought relationships to the forefront. In a world where most people made it about products, they made it about their company, and they made it about their commissions. I knew if I was going to stand out, I had to do something different. And for 30 years, I made it about relationships. I made it about the experience, and I made it about caring. And I always shared with people, I wasn't the smartest guy out there. I wasn't the most strategic person out there. There was people that would out strategize me and outsell me, but nobody was going to out care me. And I brought care into a highly, highly laggard commoditized sales channel, and it propelled me. I just did the things that very few people would be willing to do. And that meant I dug in and I dug in and I dug in to what makes people tick. And I asked a ton of great questions. I'm curious. And I would just ask people, what's a great experience? What do great salespeople do? Walk me through the last great experience you had. What's it look like? And all I did is take tons of notes and just delivered what I found out. And I did that for 3 decades until one day at 50 years old, I was career adjusted. First time ever. I was career adjusted, and it was the lowest point of my life, but it was the best thing that happened because it gave me the ability to launch what I'm doing now. And I doubled down on myself and I just went all in entrepreneurship. And I said, you know what? I'm going to bring what made me to the forefront. And without any clients, never had starting a podcast, writing a book, writing an article, coaching and training people. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go all in on this. Started a podcast, wrote a book, called it Selling from the Heart, because that's who I am. That's my internal makeup. And it's been a ride, nevertheless. And it got me to meeting you, Jeff Goldberg. But I'm all about bringing heart, sincerity, and deep business substance back into the sales profession and bringing authenticity and just plastering it right on the business table.
Awesome. And I'm glad it brought you to me. And I'm really excited for our conversation. But I just remembered I forgot to say something. If you're watching us live, please say hello in the comments. If you're watching us live on Facebook, but you have not connected your account to StreamYard, we're not going to know who you are. It's going to say Facebook user. So please say hello in the name. And if you have any questions for Larry during this interview, please toss them in the comments and I'll make sure to ask them. And good morning, Carolina Baker. It's good to see you down in, I believe, Texas. All right. So You mentioned a word that's important, commoditized. You were selling copiers, which are commodity. And one of the things I do besides training and coaching salespeople, I do outsource sales management. And two of the companies I'm working with right now are highly commoditized. So are you suggesting that the best way to differentiate in a commoditized industry is to be different, because you can't differentiate the product? So it's come from that heartfelt selling. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, here's what's interesting, and it's a saying that I hold near and dear to me, is if you want to achieve the results that no one's achieving, you have to be willing to do the things that no one's doing. And let's all key in on that for a moment, because I knew that, I mean, heck, I sold copiers. I sold things that broke, that required service, that quite frankly, nobody cared what the name on the outside of the copier was. All they cared about was what came out of it. And it didn't matter the name. And I learned that early on. So in other words, to stand out, all I did was just, again, I went back to asking questions. I asked my clients and I asked my future clients. It wasn't questions about copiers. Heck, I sold them for 30 years and still to this day, I don't know how they work. But what I delivered was memories and experiences. That's what made me unique, and that's what made me different. I believe everyone in sales, we're all uniquely human beings. We're all different. We all have different makeups. But what I found out in sales, and it's still happening today, is many walk the same way, they talk the same way, they act the same way, and they get the same results. Not to say everybody's like that, but I really honed in on that. I said, if I'm going to stand out, I'm going to stand out based on experiences. I'm going to stand out based on the care that I provide. I'm going to stand out based on, I'm going to pour everything I have into that relationship, because I knew something. I keyed in those really early on in my career. And I'll just use you, Jeff, since you and I are having this conversation together. I knew that the more comfortable I made Jeff, the more comfortable I made Jeff feel about me, the more comfortable Jeff became. The more comfortable Jeff became, he would start sharing things about himself, his company, and what I call business secrets that he wasn't sharing with somebody else. That's what made me different.
Hmm.
And I use the word vulnerability a lot, and it's being vulnerable. It's about, if I share something about me and I go first, then somebody always was compelled to say, you know what? That was different. I haven't heard that before. And then they become comfortable. They'll share something and it just breaks the ice. That's what made me different. I call it, everyone has their secret sauce. My secret sauce was my innate ability to connect and relate to people really fast. That's what made me different. And even today, there's still highly commoditized channels. But when we focus on the products and we focus on the solutions and we focus on the service, don't be surprised when we get pigeonholed into being a commodity, because we're acting just like everybody else.
Mm. Yeah, I cannot tell you how many times I've told salespeople that in the almost 50 years that I've been selling, many things have changed. But one thing that has not changed is that people still do business with people, and they do business with people that they both like and trust. And of the two, the trust is more important. And you actually say that trust is the currency of sales. So
Oh,
what does
yeah.
that, yeah, what does that mean to you? And why is it important for salespeople to know that?
So, there's a lot to unpack there, and I mean, you use some of the phrase. This is so good. By the way, this all wasn't planned, people. This is really good how this one came out. Is you use people buy from people, right? And people buy from people they know, like, and trust. Those are two phrases that have been used decades ago, and they're phrases that are used now, and there's phrases that are going to be used well after we're off this planet. Here's what I submit, and it's all going to come back to trust. Is if we can buy into those phrases that people buy from people and people buy from people they know, like, and trust, then you, as a sales professional, what are you doing to build your people skills? And what are you doing to build your relationship building skills? So the phrases that you use hold true. Think about that for a second. We use these phrases, people buy from people. Well, yeah, no duh. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. How are you building trust as a sales professional in a world where people do not trust salespeople? In fact, regardless if it's a Gallup poll or it's something from McKinsey or it's a report from Gartner, year over year over year, salespeople rank at or near the bottom when it comes to trust. Right a smidgen above politicians. And so if we know where trust sits, then what are we doing about it? And to me, trust is the currency. That's the lever. That's low trust, low sales, high trust, high sales. And I'm a big believer perception's reality. And we have to understand that. And so when I coach and train salespeople, and this is the way I held myself as a salesperson in the Office Technology Channel, is I knew where trust was at. So I was cognizant of it in my very first conversation I'd have with somebody. They always tell people to say, I want to build a relationship with Jeff, right? Well, great. That's the byproduct. In the very beginning, I want to build trust and credibility with Jeff. Because if I can't build trust and if I can't build credibility with somebody, I can't build a relationship with them.
Yeah. When when I do sales training and I talk about my conversational selling skills program, we normally start out with me asking a room full of salespeople, professional salespeople who've come to be trained how to do their jobs better. I always start out with, what words come to mind for you when I say the word sell or salesperson? Now, we're talking about professional salespeople. How do they describe themselves? Untrustworthy, liar, thief, cheat, willing to say and do anything. That's how professional salespeople describe themselves. So what
Yep.
does the rest of the world think of us? It's a real challenge for us. So what are some of the things that we can do when we're selling to establish trust more quickly?
So, wow, this is so good because, and I'm glad that you're bringing this up because isn't it interesting when you ask a room of salespeople to describe salespeople? The words I mean, those are bang on words because everyone's going to use those words. And here's what's interesting. That's why it plays on the psyche for salespeople. They know this, right? They know that they're not trustworthy, right? Describe salespeople, they're never going to say, well, they're noble, they're heart centered, right? They're full of trust, they're full of credit. They don't ever go to those routes, they go to the negative. So the way that we carry ourselves determines all of that. And I'm a big believer that salespeople are responsible and sales leaders as well. You're responsible for 100% of how you show up. You're responsible for how you carry yourself. If you all know this in the background, that there's lack of trust, they perceive us as used car salespeople. Sorry if there's used car salespeople out there, but you just get the phrase. Then it's how you carry yourself. I'm a big believer that the way you build trust is through congruency. Does the walk match the talk? Do you follow through with what you say you're going to do? Simplest little things, right? Just like when we were talking right before you launched the show, Jeff, you said, I start right on time. If you share with us, if you share with somebody, hey, I'm going to get back to you Monday at 12 o'clock. You get back to them Monday at 11:59. It's not 12:01 and it's not 12 o'clock. It's 11:59. If
Actually,
you,
for me, it's 12 o'clock.
yeah,
I watched the seconds tick off just like I do when I start the show. I'm looking. It's 11:59 and 59 seconds when
yep,
I connect. It's just the way I work. It's the way I was taught. I'm crazy about time. I hate keeping people waiting. And look, we all have mistakes sometimes, but it also drives me insane when people keep me waiting. I mean, time is money, and I don't have any to waste. And I think it's truly a sign of disrespect when you're late for somebody or they're late for you. So that's just the way I play it. 11:59 is not it. I don't know if I mentioned to you when we first spoke, but I do stand-up comedy. And yeah. And when producers put you on a show, it's like, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes, I'll give you 9 minutes, whatever the timing is. And
Yeah.
if they say I give you 7 minutes, they're not looking for 6:45, they're not looking for
Yep.
7:15, because everything's timed out, including when the waitresses and waiters are going to bring the checks out. It's all very, very important. That's just the way I've always been. I find it works to live my life that way. So
Yeah.
you talked about congruency. There's another word you also use in terms of trust, and authenticity.
Yeah.
So what does authenticity have to do with trust?
Well, it has a lot. To me, it has a lot. And I've always said authenticity, Jeff. Authenticity is a lifestyle. It's not a light switch. It's not something we just turn on. We're all authentic. We're all authentic human beings. I'm not going to drop like deep psychology on anyone because I'm not a psychologist, but I just know that your authentic self will sell you. And what I mean by that is you have to be willing to go on the journey to unpack who you are, what makes you tick, why you do the things you do. I always say the hardest thing that anybody's going to do is take the road to uncover what's in their heart. And let's all stop and think about that for a moment. And you use the words that people use to describe salespeople, and it weighs on people. I know it weighed on me throughout my career until I really unpacked who I was internally. I'm a heart-centered guy. I'm an emotional guy. I'm value driven. I care. I care a lot about the people that I work with. I care a lot about my friends, my family, my inner circle, and I wear it on my sleeve. And so to me, we're all authentic human beings. We just have to go on the journey to uncover why we do the things we do, what makes us tick, what are our values, and then be willing to plaster that out into the marketplace, out into the community, put it out on a business table. And I always shared with people still to this day, you get what you get with me. I'm a confident person who believes in myself and my messaging, and I've worked for decades on my self-worth. And I carry myself in a certain way. And to me, that's what authenticity is all about. It's about being able to go on that journey I always say the inner work you do fuels the outer success you'll have.
Mm, love that.
And especially there's such a disconnect, and I see it. And I see the disconnect between how salespeople view other salespeople and how salespeople view themselves. And it wears on them. And it wore on me for a long time until I was willing to go down the journey to unpack what's in my heart. And once I did that, this is what was interesting, Jeff. My relationship started to become stronger. The way I connected with people became easier. The way I related to people became easier. I didn't have to worry about juggling multiple hats.
Mhm. This brings up another question, but before we get to that, good morning, Tony Scalise, and Sheila Kastner says, great. Sorry, I have to leave. I don't want to be late because I'm meeting someone. Go be on time, Sheila. Go be on time. I can always watch this on the replay. So, I've had a challenge with figuring this out because I've been trained by many people as over my career. In fact, at one point, I went to work for Hilton Timeshares.
Uh-huh.
Horrible mistake. I was terrible at it.
Hey, well, God bless you for doing it, because that's tough stuff.
Stayed for 2 months and left. I was not a good match for it. But one of the things they taught us in training was to evaluate your prospect by putting them into one of four categories. You could use the DISC categories or any. They had a different set of categories, but it was, you've got to change your style of selling for each of these because an engineer is different than a feeler and like that. And I've always said, that's disingenuous. I'm going to be me no matter who I'm speaking with. So how do you feel about that? Do we need to change who we are in order to sell to different buying types, or should we just be who we are?
I say you just be who you are. But in order to be who you are, you have to uncover who you are. And you might be going, Larry, what the heck are you talking about? I mean, you really got to unpack this. And here's what I learned. I can't do business with everyone. I learned that a long time ago. I can't do business with everyone. We all can't do business with everyone. But here's what I found out. And it took me a while to figure this out. And I whiteboarded this one day, Jeff, in my office when I was in the copier channel, is I listed out my top 20 customers at the time. Now, this goes back decades ago, and I listed them all out. And it was like 1 through 20, no random or it was just here's my top 20 customers based on the criteria that I used. And then and then from there, I put them into vertical markets. What vertical market were they in? And then what did I have in common with them? What was interesting is where those all intersected is we all had common values. We all had common traits. We're all in alignment with certain things. Those became my best customers, my most profitable customers, and things like that. Then what I learned is when I got to some of my, I prioritized them like A customers, B customers, and C. Once I got down to the C, those are the ones where there was some disconnect. There were usually the problem ones and things like that. That's when I triggered something. I go, I can't do business with everyone. What I need to go out and find are more people who are just like my A customers. And once I did that, life became so much happier. So the point being behind this is you can't do business with everyone. You just really can't. Find people that align to your values, who share common goals, who share common things. Watch what starts to happen. But here as salespeople, we try to do business with everyone because our funnels are so weak. And I write about it in Selling from the Heart is simple. And just I always say this: if you want to have an ever-flowing sales funnel, you must build an ever-flowing relationship funnel. And I'm a big believer that weak sales funnels are from spotty prospecting, but more importantly, it goes back to many in sales have weak people skills and weak relationship building skills. And those play a big factor in all of this. But all I realized is if I can find more people that are just like me, that share common things, that share common goals, that value some of the things that I do, sky started to become the limit. That's what I want people to really realize. You can't do business with everyone. You can't put, right? You can't put a round peg, right, in a square hole. And salespeople, because they have weak sales funnels, and when they get somebody on the phone who's willing to meet with them, right away they go from meeting to a proposal to try to close somebody. And I'm keeping it short, but I think y'all get the picture on this. As opposed to slowing it down, you'll actually sell things faster. And in that first conversation, are we the right fit?
Yeah. Yeah. Not only can't we do business, we can't do business with everyone. I don't want to. I want to do business with
Exactly.
everyone that I'm right for them and they're right for me, which means you've got to
Yes.
have a clearly defined ideal client profile. If you don't know who your best client is, your ideal client is, you're not going to know when they show up, and you're going to use exactly what you were talking about, Larry, a scattershot approach. Let's put everybody in the pipeline, which is why so many salespeople fail. I mean, good news for you and me who train salespeople how to do their jobs better, but so many salespeople struggle their entire careers. And I think one of the beauties of sales is that for a guy like myself who's a college dropout, I make a
Yeah.
substantial living. Other than doctors, lawyers, maybe, and professional entertainers, salespeople have this amazing opportunity to earn unlimited income with not necessarily the strongest book learning skills. So if you don't know who you're looking to sell to, everybody's going to show up, and that's why they fail. And I find that atrocious because there is such a great opportunity in sales to make a lot of money and by serving a lot of people.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Sales is a great profession. Sales is an amazing profession. And here's what's interesting. If we don't sell things, money doesn't move through the economy that the rate that it needs to move through the economy. And I always I'm a big believer. One of my favorite sayings, Jeff, is that what's forever old is forever new. What's forever old is forever new. I'm a big, huge Napoleon Hill fan. Huge Napoleon Hill fan. And I mean, I'm on a deep Napoleon Hill journey. But if you go back in time, and if Andrew Carnegie and Rockefeller and the Fords and Charles Schwab, right? all the great ones of centuries ago, if they were on our conversation right now, they'd be high-fiving us. That's how they built their businesses to become the giants that they are today through generations. Is they understood the people aspect of this, and they understood the relationship building aspect of this, and they knew they couldn't do business with everybody, but they had enough self-discipline and they held themselves accountable to find people just like them who shared common traits, who shared common values, and they all came together. It's what I did in the copier channel. It's how I built Selling from the Heart.
Yeah. You said sales is a great career a moment ago, and I think you'll like a phrase that my stepfather, who was a career salesperson and taught me many of the things that started my sales career, he used to say this all the time. Jeffrey, sales is a great career, and here's why. Every single day, you get to wake up, look yourself in the mirror, and give yourself a raise. And then all you have to do is go out and earn it
Yep.
every single day. I
Yep.
love it. It served me well, and I do look in the mirror every day and tell myself, I'm giving myself a raise. Let's go get it, baby.
Yeah, dude, that is so good. And here's and you know, and sales is a great profession, right? But if you ask most salespeople, it's like me, y'all fall into it, right? You know, you're not 7 or 8 years old, right? Running around with your friends and you all are having conversations. You go, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? You never hear, I want to be a professional salesperson when I grow
Never.
up. It never happens. But sales is a great profession.
Yeah, I fell into it by accident, like almost everybody does, and I've stuck with it. It's now my 48th year. You have a Selling from the Heart manifesto, which I found great. That you say we know our values and we live by them. So for somebody who might not have done the work that you've done and that I've done to figure that out, how does one discover what their true values really are?
What I would say, and I keep things just really simple, Jeff, is just grab a sheet of paper and a pen and just start jotting things down, right? And when I say jotting things down, when it comes to values, what are the things that you value? What does value mean to you? And I learned something a long time ago. I'm a very inquisitive person. So when I want help around things, I usually, if I don't go onto the internet to find it, I just go ask people. And I would ask people, what do they value? What's value mean to you? What are the things that you value? And I just started just compartmentalizing all of this. So to help people unpack this, first thing I would do is just jot down, what's value mean to you? Go ask people, what's value mean to them? What are the things you value in life? What are the things you value in business?
Yeah,
It's really, it's not complicated stuff, but yet people make it so complicated. It's just asking a couple little things. It's just what value, right? If you want to unpack value, go ask your clients. Hey, what's value mean to you? What are the things you value? When it comes to a business relationship, what do you look for? What words would you use to describe value? So if you're struggling to really unpack this, just go ask your customers or your clients, however you refer to them. What are the things you value? What's value mean to you?
yeah.
What are your values?
It's one of
Start
those things.
jotting these things down. And I'm a big, you can earn a PhD in knowledge from your customers if you ask. They will help you, they will coach you.
They're your best source of business intelligence.
They're
All you have to do is
they're
ask.
their best source. So, if you're struggling, those that are watching this live, or if you go back and watch the recording, if you're struggling to unpack your values, here's what I would encourage you to do. Just go sit down with people who know you really well and just ask them, how do you think I carry myself? What words would you use to describe me based on what you know of me? How do you view me? What words would you use to describe me? That's tough to ask people, but you got to be willing to ask. I ask. I have no problem asking people all these things. And that's how I really started to uncover values.
Yeah, I actually paid a guy to go around about a year and a half after I started my company. He went around to my customers with a video camera and he simply asked them, "What do you like about working with Jeff?" And videotaped the answers. And it was,
Yeah.
first of all, many of them are on my website. It's my customers saying why they like doing
Yeah.
business with me rather than me saying why they like doing business with me, which is certainly credible. But it's amazing how you can sometimes learn things that you had no idea about. You know, what
Exactly.
you think you're delivering is not really what you're delivering in the eyes of your customer. And that's what
Exactly.
counts. And I know for me, you know, like you, I've done a lot of work on myself. And for me, my number one value, the thing I value most in life after my 3 children and my dog is my integrity,
Yep.
because without that, I'm nothing as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, it takes an investment of time and the willingness to look inside and figure out who you really are, which most of us just don't, because we're so busy trying to make a buck.
Yeah, you know, and I'm glad you brought up integrity because that's one of my values as well. But here's what's interesting. When you uncover your values, get them out on the business table and out in conversations as fast as possible. And here's what I mean by this is somewhere in a conversation. It may not be the first conversation, but it's probably going to happen in conversation somewhere down the road is this. Why should I do business with you? What makes you different? And most people, when they hear that, not all, but a vast majority, when they hear the question, what makes you different? The key word in here is you, is they will go to what makes their company different. But the question was, it's not what makes your company different, it what makes you different. Why should I work with you? And this is where you can bring your values up on the table. You know, what makes me different from everybody else is I'm a value-centered person. I place integrity up on the business table, right? My why is I believe that success happens when I contribute to a greater cause. I do this by bringing things to the table that are clear, that are concise. And once I do this, I love building trusting relationships.
Yeah, it just feels better.
It feels better. And then you know what happens? The person on the other end, after they've picked themselves up from hitting their head on the back of the wall or they pick themselves up from falling off the chair, they go, finally, finally, I found a sales professional.
Exactly right.
But you got to be, but you have to be willing to do that. Wouldn't you agree, Jeff?
100%.
Yeah.
Look, to me, sales is all about communication. And if you can't communicate who you are in the matter, then you're going to be
Oh, you're
you're
dead
going
in
to
the
get a
water.
bunch of clients that don't really respect who you are and what you do, and you're going to be pounding your head against the wall and starving for most of the time, which doesn't make sense to me. We're about halfway through, and we're talking to Larry Levine, the author of Selling from the Heart. We're going to take just 52 seconds for a quick commercial break. Then we'll be right back. Hi, I'm Jeff Goldberg, founder of the Sales Pro Network and head coach and trainer at Jeff Goldberg and Associates. I work with both individuals and organizations to help them get measurable and sustainable sales increases. Whether you're a salesperson who does it professionally or someone who has to sell as part of their job, I can help. Maybe you're not getting enough appointments with decision makers. Perhaps your sales cycle is too long, or you just want to close more business more profitably. Reach out to me and we can talk. Through both training and coaching, I can help you increase your sales. You can reach me at 516-608-4136 or Jeff at jgsalespro.com. And remember that sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. So we're looking for sponsors other than me to put in commercials, but that was mine, Larry. Larry, it looks like you're muted somehow now. I don't know if I did that to you. There we go. Nope. Larry, you still there? Uh-oh. Larry, you seem to be frozen. Ray Aurora says, good morning, Larry and Jeff. I'm not sure if I did this to you, Larry, or not. Larry, if you can still hear me, if you could unmute your mic, you might have to log out and log back in. All right. So while we're waiting for Larry to come back in, he's in a hotel room, as he said earlier. He's normally doing this from his home, but he's on the road meeting with his podcast partner. They're moving their podcast to another platform, and they were meeting in California with their new producer. So we'll give him just a couple of seconds. While we're waiting for Larry to come back, I would remind you that it is almost the end of December, which means it's time to start thinking about setting aside some time to work on your goals. January is going to come around very quickly in just 3 weeks, slightly over that, and you want to hit the ground running. So please do make sure that you set aside some time between now and the end of the year to write down what your goals are. Think about it carefully. And, at this time of year, you want to hit the ground running in January. So make sure you set some time aside for goal setting, and looking forward to the 2023. And welcome back, Larry.
My apologies. Sorry about that.
I don't know whether I did that to you when I hit the commercial or not, but I'm glad that
we're back. It's all good. So
fair enough. One of the other things you said, because I always go on people's websites and their LinkedIn feeds, is we waged the war against mediocrity at your company. In what way? What does that mean? We waged the war against mediocrity.
It goes back. So there's a couple things, and I'm going to pack it as the last chapter, Selling from the Heart. I talk about not being an empty suit. And I say this with all the respect in the world. I'm not here to disrespect sales. I love every aspect of sales. I use strong words to get people to think, because this is mindset and how we carry ourselves. There is so much mediocrity in sales. There's so much complacency in sales that when I came up with my manifesto, and I use the word "we wage a war," it's to get people to think, right? Those that choose a selling from the heart lifestyle, we're different. We're standing out from everyone else who's blending in. Everyone else is swimming in what I call a red ocean of mediocrity. They walk the same, they talk the same, they act the same, they deliver the same experiences. So if you want to stand out, you got to be willing to just wage a war, right? And it's not to raise hell and things like that. It's to say, you know what? I'm going to be different, and I'm going to do everything under my power to prevent me being viewed as an empty suit, somebody who doesn't care. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to wave a flag. I'm going to say, yes, this is who I am. I am not mediocre. And that was the whole point behind the manifesto, and using some of the words. I love using big action words to drive points across. And I just said, you know what? I'll just say we'll wage a war on mediocrity, because unfortunately, Jeff, there's a lot of mediocre salespeople out there.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
And I say this because, you know what? We can all do better, but yet we lull ourselves into complacency. You weren't right. No one forced you into sales. You chose the profession based on whatever happened at that moment in time. You decided to get into sales. But I do know this: there's a massive difference between a sales rep and a sales professional. There's a lot of mediocre sales reps. There's not a lot of sales professionals.
That's for sure.
So that's why I just say we wage a war on mediocrity.
Of course, we all make our choices, but I chose to stay in sales. I didn't actually choose to get into sales. I was working at a furniture store part-time while I was in college as the office manager, writing purchase orders and paying checks and stuff like that. And one day, one of the salespeople didn't show up, and we were busy. And the boss said to me, "Go sell those people." And I said, "I don't know how to sell." He goes, "Here." And he handed me a legal pad and a pen. This is no exaggeration. I will often exaggerate a story just to make a point. Zero exaggeration here. Hands me a pen and a legal pad. He says, "Follow them around the showroom, smile a lot." And this is exactly what he is. Smile a lot, write down what they want, come back, and I'll give you the prices. That's selling. And almost 50 years later, I'm still doing pretty much that without the forced smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In the new economy, relationships matter. This is something you've said on your website. In the new economy, relationships matter, and old school techniques just don't work anymore. So this is a question that's been asked of me many times. I'd love to hear what you have to say. How do you form when we're sitting one-on-one, like
Sure.
I'm assuming you're selling to the same type of people I am, a CEO, a company president, or a vice president of sales or above when you're selling training. But when you have to sell to a committee or perhaps to the procurement department, how do you form relationships with those people?
So it's interesting, and because it goes back to, right, we're all uniquely different. And I learned this. I don't know how I just stumbled across it because it's just how I wanted to carry myself. But I just knew that a CFO, because I'm going to back up into how I answer this. So I would sell to like IT people, CFOs. There'd be sometimes procurement, and there'd be sometimes facilities. You may have somebody from accounting and things like this. I knew early on there was multiple people that were involved in a buying decision. It wasn't one person. That's just get. I don't care what you're selling. It's not, even in a small company of 20 people. There might be a key executive decision maker, but there's going to be multiple influencers. And what I would just learn early on is I brought them all together in the very beginning. I wanted to know what made them tick in the very beginning. It wasn't just me working with Jeff, who's the vice president of finance. It was me working with Jeff, who's the vice president of finance, somebody in procurement, somebody in IT. So I made it upon myself. I had to get to know these people, and they had to get to know me. And the way I did that is I brought them all together in the very beginning. Now, this is, obviously decades ago, but I'd bring them all together in the very beginning. And what I mean by that is, if in that very first conversation I had with somebody, because the whole buying committee is usually not in the very first meeting, but if Jeff, you were the VP of finance, and I knew that there was multiple people involved in this is what I would share in this meeting. And I think this will help really dive into your question, and why I bring this to the forefront when I coach and train salespeople is, if I knew the conversation was going to the next step, and we all know this, we know inherently if there's going to be a next step. It's something that we both sense. So I would say, hey, Jeff, if somewhere down the road you decide I'm the right fit and we can agree to agree, it's fair to say that there's going to be more people involved in a decision to do business with me. Is that correct? Yes. It'd be fair to say that there's probably going to be a CFO. It's fair to say there's going to be somebody from IT. It's fair to say there might be somebody from accounting. Then everyone goes, yes. Then how about we do this? How about the next step? We all come together. And this way they get a chance to get to know me. I get a chance to get to know them. I get a chance to what makes them tick. What are some of their initiatives? What are some of their goals? And by bringing everyone together, I met them for the first time, like all together. There's power behind that, because then throughout the buying journey, I have a chance to build relationships with these people outside of us coming all together. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's what a lot of salespeople fail to do. Is we all know there's multiple people that are involved in any decision today. If we know that, then make it incumbent upon us that we have to bring these people together. We have to bring these people together so they get a chance to get to know me, and I get a chance to get to know them. I can learn about their initiatives, because I do know this. Every department who's involved in a decision, they have different initiatives, they have different goals, they have different outcomes. I need to know all of that up front. And I think what happens is we leave a lot on the table as salespeople when we engage with one or two people, knowing that there's 4 or 5 other people we need to build relationships with. I think we inherently know this, but it goes back to, if you ever want to have an ever flowing sales funnel, you have to build an ever flowing relationship funnel. You have to map this out, and you have to be willing to dig in deep on it.
Can we talk about what you just mentioned,
Yeah.
the sales funnel? What is authentic prospecting? Because to me, it's the number one challenge of every organization I walk into, every salesperson I coach. They're simply not seeing enough prospects, and they're not seeing the right prospects. And I don't care how good you are at selling. You could put your and my experience and skills together. Doesn't matter how good we are if we're not speaking to enough prospects and the right ones. So what is authentic prospecting all about?
So it's Authentic prospecting is a couple of things. It's about bringing, again, it goes back to bringing the best version of yourself to the forefront. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to go back to this prospecting. People don't prospect enough. They don't even know what they're prospecting for, Jeff. And it's one of the questions I ask: what are you prospecting for? And it's usually a needle in a haystack. They're trying to find a deal. They're trying to find the ball on the 1 yard line, right? Authentic prospecting is bringing the best version of yourself to the forefront and having a genuine conversation with somebody. How are you opening conversations with somebody? Are you opening it as a sales rep? Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. I'm working with a salesperson. This was just earlier this week. Fairly new person in this company. They've been in there 3 months. I said, "How's prospecting going?" "I'm struggling with it." Net new, it's a sales rep, net new territory, it's all new business. I said, "Can you walk me through your prospecting talk track?" And this is what they said. Insert name, insert company, right? "Hello, Jeff. It's Larry with ABC Company. I just want to let you know I'm the new market rep, right? In the territory. Insert name of territory. This is a little bit about myself and my company. I'm just curious. Can I stop by in a couple weeks to introduce myself?" Jeff, no lie, that was the prospecting talk track. I said, "How's that working for you?" He goes, "Not very well." "How's that make you feel?" "Not very good." And then he goes, "What do I do?" And I just sat down with him and I said, "Place yourself in their shoes." They happened to pick up the phone because they probably thought it was somebody else. How would you act? How do you want that person to feel? And he just said, "I just want to open up a conversation." I said, "Okay, share a little bit about yourself to me. What makes you tick? What makes you come alive?" And he shared it with me. I said, "What could you say?" Right? If you're in that person's shoes, right? If you're insert name of title and a salesperson called you, what would cause you to set up an appointment with them? And we just walk through it. To me, this is authentic prospecting. It's just getting to know yourself and placing yourself in the other person's shoes, just being real human about it. Here's the interesting part: we're all human beings, but yet we don't act as human beings when we're prospecting because we make it about ourselves, we make it about our products, and we make it about our company, as opposed to, can I just connect with somebody? The whole point behind authentic prospecting is to get somebody to open up into a conversation. That's it. It's not about your product. It's not about your service. It's connecting with someone. How fast can you connect with somebody? Be your authentic self.
Can you give us an example? So let's
Yeah,
say you trying to sell sales training, and I'm a vice president of sales with 100 salespeople at
sure.
XYZ company. What would that sound like when I go, "Hi, this is Jeff"?
I'd say, Jeff, right? In working with VPs of sales over the last 90 days, we've been working on these three things. These are what their sales teams have been struggling with: how to grow net new business, how to really go deep inside their accounts, their current customers, and how to engage in executive level conversations. Jeff, out of those three, I'm just curious, which one hits the mark with you?
Yeah,
And that's rolled out in 15, 20 seconds. Jeff's going to say, right? I'm just going to say, let's just say Jeff says growing net new business, right, is an issue. Why do you think that's an issue, Jeff?
my salespeople are pretty bad at prospecting, and even once they get in front of somebody, they can't close deals to save their lives.
Well, why do you think that's happening?
They're probably not trained by somebody like you.
What do you think's causing that? Right. And then from there, and then from there to say, hey, Jeff, right, I appreciate your time. I really appreciate your time. I'm just curious, over the coming weeks, how open-minded would you be to a conversation? I have some ideas and insights on how you might be able to grow new business over the coming weeks. Could you give me 30 minutes? Would that be fair? Is that all right?
Yeah, permission based. I love that.
And here's what's interesting. I role played this out with that salesperson who was using an outdated, right, that most people use. And he sent me a message yesterday in my LinkedIn message center because I asked him, I said, and this was just on Tuesday, so 3 days ago. He said, my conversations were richer. And this is what was said. One person said, I can't believe that you didn't give me a sales script.
Heaven.
Prospecting's not that difficult. It becomes difficult because we're inconsistent with prospecting as salespeople.
Yes, and that inconsistency is what causes the ups and downs of selling. Good week, good month, bad month. It's one of the things I preach over and over. Consistent and effective prospecting solves at least 50% of all sales problems. The challenge becomes that it's most salespeople don't want to do it. It doesn't have to be cold calling, but they don't want to do anything. And it's the first thing to go when they get busy with anything else. It's always an excuse. And I'll get to it tomorrow. I'll get to it tomorrow. And the challenge is if you string together too many tomorrows of not prospecting, somewhere down the line, there's going to be a blank space where you can't possibly close business because, if we could prospect today and get paid tomorrow, every salesperson would prospect every single day. But
Yeah.
the relation, I know when I sell sales training, for example, from the time I first speak with somebody to set an appointment till the time I get their check, it's 4.5 months.
Yep.
So if I don't prospect today, I can't get paid 4.5 months from today. And if I don't, tomorrow's Saturday, so I probably won't. But
Yeah.
if I don't prospect Monday, I can't get paid 4.5 months from Monday. And it's that inconsistency which causes salespeople. One of the things that cause salespeople to struggle.
No, and I write, and I there's a little sentence in my book, Selling from the Heart, and I just talk about it. And it's kind of poke the bear a little bit, but I said salespeople are consistently inconsistent. We know we have to prospect. Here's what's interesting. I can look at VP of sales, sales leader, chief sales officer, chief revenue officer. I can look them in the eye and say, you know what? I eat my own dog food. To use that phrase, I'm deeply connected to my message. Everything that I coach and train your salespeople on, I do myself. Just as you got to grow your business and grow your client relationships, guess what? So do I. But here's the kicker. I prospect 7 days a week. Me personally, call me insane. I prospect 7 days a week. I hold myself non-negotiable to prospect 7 days a week. And you might be going, Larry, there's Saturday and Sunday. And I said, you know what? I learned this when I was selling copiers. If I wanted to engage executive decision makers, there was a window and I found that window, and it was early on a Saturday morning and it was early on a Sunday morning. And all I did, and I'm an early riser. I get up insanely early in the morning, but that's just me. I found that window was like somewhere between 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning, West Coast time. And still to this day, I hold myself accountable to it. On a Saturday or Sunday, all I want to do is set one meeting. One meeting, that's it. With a VP of sales, chief sales officer, it doesn't matter. But I found the window. And the window is because the phone's not ringing. They're in comfy clothes. They got a cup of coffee. They're checking their emails and things like that. So salespeople, get back to having discipline and consistency. You signed up for sales. You chose to be in sales. Part of being in sales is you got to prospect. If you want to become a sales professional, you got to double down on prospecting. Call it business development. Call it opening conversations. It doesn't really matter. Even the most tenured salespeople out there can become better, Jeff. And here's what I challenge salespeople to do who are really struggling with it. Just one, all I ask you to do, become better at opening conversations and just hold yourself accountable. I'm going to prospect every day because every day I want to generate one new meeting with somebody. Somewhere on my calendar in 2 weeks, I want to open up one new conversation with somebody. I want to set up one appointment with a current client. Just simple little things. But if you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And, people, and I'm sure this happens to you, Jeff. People go, well, you make it sound so easy. It's because we practice it.
Bingo.
I practice opening my conversations. I practice prospecting. I practice engaging in conversations. And when you don't practice and you don't prepare and you don't plan, you get the results that you get.
Exactly right. I think we're brothers from another mother because while I don't do this anymore, I built my business through cold calling.
Yeah.
When I worked for a large sales training company, then I opened up my own, and I didn't take any of their customers away. So I just sat on the phone
Yeah.
all day long. And my now ex-wife knew, don't plan anything for me with you and the kids on Saturday mornings. Why? I was calling executives, and
Yep.
it was stunning how often you would actually get somebody who would pick up the phone. And I only sell to a CEO, company president, or VP of sales, but they're exactly what you're talking about. They're sitting at their desk trying to clean up all the work they couldn't get to because pesky people like us were calling them all week and they had stuff to deal with. And who do they think is calling? Not you and me. They think it's a family member. They pick up and they are relaxed with their cup of coffee and maybe in their jeans, and you can have a conversation with them.
You're so right. And you get there's always the Debbie Doubters out there, Jeff, and you're going to say, right, it's probably happened to you. A lot of people say, Larry, man, you're a whack job, man. You got to have family time and all that. I totally get it, right? But I just know I'm an early riser. My wife and when my kids were little at the home, they weren't early risers. So I had some quiet time. And to me, and I would always get into arguments with sales managers, and when we became business partners in my copier dealership, I would always say, you know what? You shouldn't care how I prospect as long as I prospect.
And as long as it's bringing you enough appointments.
Exactly. So I would it was just the simple things. I would just hold myself accountable every day. This is what I'm going to do. One new appointment, one meeting with a current client. I'm going to open up one really good conversation. And I just held myself accountable to these little tiny metrics. And I did them every day. And by doing them every day, soon enough, my calendar started to fill up. I had more net new appointments than anybody else. I was driving more new conversations than anybody else because I held myself accountable to certain things. And it goes all the way back to good old Andrew Carnegie. In Napoleon Hill, in his book, Mental Dynamite, he asked, it was a conversation between Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie. And Napoleon Hill asked Andrew Carnegie what made him so successful. And Andrew Carnegie said something really simple: self-discipline and constructive habits. Mm-hmm. Those two things. So I just held myself to a high degree of standards. I had dysfunctional sales teams and dysfunctional managers, but I chose sales. I wanted to make it a career and I wanted to be a professional at it. So guess what? I had to hold myself accountable. I had disciplined habits and I had massive, massive accountability. I held myself to a higher standards than most. I'm sure you did the same as well.
Absolutely.
I didn't care what was going on in the sales team. I cared about what I was doing.
100%. And I love what you were going for. Rather than I'm going to make this amount of calls or send this many emails, it's I need one appointment. I don't care if you get it on the first. Well, personally, I think if you get it on the first call, you should be making some more calls because you're on a roll. But
Yeah.
It's not about how many calls you make or how many dials or how many emails or how many LinkedIn or whatever it is. It's, are you being successful? Do you have the tools that you need to close business? And you can make a million calls, but if you're not getting any appointments, you're not getting any sales. So brilliant. I could talk to you all day, Larry, but I've taken up enough of your time and we're actually at an hour. Before we go though, could you please tell people, A, how do they get the book? And B, how do they reach you if they're interested in speaking to you about training or coaching or any of the things that you offer?
Oh, great. First of all, I sincerely appreciate our time together. I could talk to you for hours, Jeff, and hopefully this is the start of many, many more conversations. If you want to grab my book, just go to sellingfromtheheart.net/book. I'd be more than happy to send you a free copy of Selling from the Heart. I'll sign it. And all I ask for you to do is pay shipping and handling. It's nominal cost. Just go to
Nice.
sellingfromtheheart.net/book. If you want to learn more about coaching and training and our whole philosophy at Selling from the Heart, just go to sellingfromtheheart.net, and you can learn everything that you could possibly uncover about Selling from the Heart. Or you can follow us on Selling from the Heart on YouTube, and then you can be up to date on our podcasts and all of our events that we're putting on.
And I would also urge people to follow you on LinkedIn, along with, I think, about 38 other thousand people that follow you.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. This was awesome. I had a blast, and I just appreciate you. Sincerely, thank you for having me.
Same here, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing your brilliance generously. And I will end this as I always do. Gang, please remember, sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you again, Larry. Speak to you soon.
It was my pleasure.